Hail and well met Shire folk, I'm Abby. In this episode, we are continuing our series of how to run a LARP with episode 2, Staffing Your LARP. Now, whatever your philosophy is about LARP, one thing we can probably all agree on is that LARP really can't be done alone. And the lifeblood of any organization, anything you do, is going to be the people that you do it with. So one of your first steps is going to be building a team, whether as a support system or just to fill in all the holes that you can't fill yourself. You're going to need people, and this is how you're going to choose people and figure out what positions to put these people in. So number one, what do you need people for? Really, you need people for anything that you can't do yourself. This could be anything, whether it's communication, whether it's running social media or operating some kind of website. There are going to be certain roles that you're going to need to be filled that maybe you can't be there for. So if there's something that you won't always have the time for, or something that you just know that you're going to need help with, or that isn't your area of expertise, you're going to need people to fill those roles. That can be food, that can be setup and tear down, that can be logistics, that can be story. Any number of things might come up as things that other people can help you do when you can't always do it yourself. A good team will also help to provide support and motivation when you're going through the process of doing this LARP. It's going to take a lot of time, it's going to take a lot of energy, and sometimes you're going to need people who can motivate you, who get you energized to work on the project, and also support you as you're making tough decisions and help provide the advice and the help that you're going to need. Take our event for example. We have different people that supply different kinds of roles as they're working in our events. We have some people that we're always bringing in for story related things. If we're having a plot building meeting, we have certain people that are there for those kinds of meetings. Alternatively, we might have people that are in the meetings that are related to logistics, how we're going to get certain props or certain NPCs or certain people just in the right places at the right times to allow a plot to happen. Even on the behind the scenes side, we have people who are helpers for the website. So everyone needs some kind of wizard to be running a website. We have a wizard. Our wizard helps us, running email lists, maintaining the website, making sure things go up when they're supposed to. And so we have different people that supply these different roles. I don't know how to run a website, but I've got a friend who does. I don't always know how to make sure certain people can be at the right place at the right time. Maybe we have someone who has a four-wheeler and they can track people from place to place across the property. So you have different people who can do different roles at different points, and you can have these people be on different committees and be in different meetings that best allow those qualities to shine. And part 2 is, how do you choose the right people? We've already mentioned some of the different kind of roles that people will play as they're helping you to create the events that you're trying to create, but what kind of qualities are you looking for in the people who will be staffing and representing your event? So there are certain qualities you might want to look for. Reliability is a really good one. We try to make sure that the people that we have in our meetings, that we have on the ground at our events, working on organizing things for our LARPs, are people who are reliable. We know that they can do the things that they need to do, and when they say they can do something, they're the kind of people who can really follow through. Additionally, we want people who have really positive interactions with others. We try and make sure we have people who really know how to be kind, who really know how to show compassion to others, and really give people the sense that they can kind of be lifted while they're playing. Additionally, having people that are flexible is really, really helpful. Having people who are able to think on their toes, who know how to be able to pivot and change what they're doing in order to allow interactions and allow things that are happening at the LARP to go as smoothly as possible. You don't want too much rigidity, you don't want people who are impatient, you want people who are able to really go with the flow in a way that effectively helps you to organize the events that you're trying to put on. Now, alongside these qualities that you want people to have, you also want them to have certain kinds of qualifications. So when we started our first event that we were kind of running on our own, we had certain people in our lives that we'd LARPed with before, or people who had run their own LARPs. So they had certain qualifications that helped us to kind of bring together a team of people that knew how to run a LARP and how to effectively organize one. So we had people who knew how to run food, people who knew how much of this prop or how many of these people you would need for an interaction or a scene to proceed correctly. So there are a lot of different qualifications you can look for. These don't have to necessarily be LARP experience. Sometimes you know people who play D&D, sometimes you know people who work in interactive theater, or even just know things about food and logistics for large events. So there are a lot of elements of event organization and LARP running that can look a lot of different ways. So you want to look for these qualifications, identify what specific qualifications the people around you might have, and then put them in the right positions that match those qualifications and the experiences that they already have under their belts. Now, we also want to remember that as we are organizing a staff for your event, probably a lot of these people will be your friends, and you want these people to be people that you're willing to be around a lot of the time. Ideally, these people that you're going to be in meetings with, that you're going to be making plans with, are people that you get along well with, that they're people who will be able to support you and also eventually become the face of your organization or event. So when you invite people to be staff, they're not only going to be people who can get the job done. As things proceed, they will be the people that are kind of the grassroots of this event. So when new people join your organization, when new people start coming to your events, they will identify the staff as kind of the people who are representing what the organization is about. So you want people with those qualities, those qualifications that really leave people with a good impression, and that you'd be willing to say, this is the face of my event. These people who are these staff members are the people who are representing me and representing what I'm trying to do with this LARP. You want people who reflect the values that your game has, as well as the values that you as a game runner have. Now, our third question is, how do you utilize the people that you have? We've mentioned a little bit about how to look at the qualifications and the qualities of the people that you want to have on your staff. You also want to consider what kind of things are these people specifically good at doing. So you may have a lot of different people who are good at organization or who are good at logistics. You may also only have one person who's really good at painting things or really good at writing a poem to be used in a certain riddle. So when you identify someone that has a singular specific skill set that kind of sets them apart from other members of staff or other people in your organization, you want to use that as best you can. You want to make sure you identify that quality, ask around about what people are good at, what skills they're bringing to the table, and really maximize how much you get to include that in your game. Not only do you want to look at what people can do, it's also good to look at what people like to do. If you have someone who really likes writing songs or performing songs or doing things of that ilk, it's good to think about, okay, I have someone who can do this and they enjoy doing this. How can I implement this a little more in the game to really show that passion that you're bringing to this event and to your organization? And lastly, you also want to make sure that you're looking at what people can be relied upon to do. So you may have people with these different qualities, these different skill sets and qualifications. You also want to consider, if you've got one person who has 5 different skill sets, how are you going to make sure that you're maximizing those skills that are most important? You don't want to put 20 different roles onto one person, because then you can't rely on them so much to do the singular things that they need to do. You want to consider not only what can they do, but what can they be reliably able to do. How many little things can you give to each individual person so that no one person becomes overwhelmed? If you've got one person who can paint a great latex mask and can also write a poem, and you got someone else who can write a poem, and someone else who can write a poem, and someone else who can do story, you might want to divvy up some of those things so that you give specific goals and specific tasks to people who are able to do those tasks. Another important aspect of utilizing the people that you have is communicating with them. So as you're working with different people on your event, you're giving them different tasks, you want to stay on top of what everyone is doing. You want to communicate with people, doing regular check-ins to make sure that the things they want to get done are getting done is really, really effective. You don't want people falling through the cracks or feeling overwhelmed that they've been given too much to do and they can't handle it. So doing check-ins to ensure that they're handling their workload and that you're keeping an eye on how your LARP is progressing is really, really helpful. This makes people feel that they are being appreciated and respected. Ensuring that you really thank them and you know how much they are necessary for this event is really, really helpful. If you have staff that do a really great job and you're really happy with how they performed, but then you never let them feel appreciated or you never point out to others how effectively they did that job, they might not necessarily feel the urge to come back unless they're super, super altruistic. So ensuring that your staff feels appreciated and you recognize the work that they put into this event keeps people coming back and makes them feel rewarded for what they've put in. Another element of communication is ensuring that all your staff are on the same page. So whether this is through some kind of group chat or through a master document on Google Docs, it's really good to make sure that you share the same information with all of your staff. Sometimes this can be done just by sharing one document with everybody that has as much information as you can about the plot of the event, about where people need to be at what time, about what kind of things you need to have done by the time of the event, ensuring that everyone knows what kind of a timeline they're on, what is happening during the actual event, and what are the highest priorities will help people to be able to determine how to use their time, what they need to focus on, and also will help them to answer questions for themselves and for each other as they're working towards this LARP. Ensuring that this communication is clear and that everyone has the same answers to these questions will not only build faith in the administration of your LARP, but it will also build faith among the staff of your LARP when it regards the PCs. So when players or people are coming to your event and they can tell that your staff all have the same answers whenever questions are asked to them and all seem to be on the same page and understand what is supposed to be happening when, this will make players feel that this is a well-organized event. They'll make it feel as though they can really trust staff members and that the organization overall is very, very clear and that they know what is expected of them as players. Now, as you are first assembling this staff, we know from our personal experience that usually the people who end up being staff are friends of some kind. They're people that you know through your hobbies or through other LARPs that you've been to. So it's very, very easy to kind of end up staffing LARP with people who you're friends and that you're close with. This doesn't necessarily mean that every friend you have or every LARPer you know must automatically become a staff member. We know that resources, especially people resources, can be limited when you're starting a small local game or starting a small local organization with just a handful of friends. It's also good to remember though, sometimes you have friends where you recognize their value, you love being around them, but you also see that maybe they don't have the qualifications where they need to be a staff member. You can still LARP with your friends without them having to be administration on your LARP. We have a lot of friends that we LARP with that are just PCs and they add so much to the event, but they're not necessarily staff because a LARP still needs PCs. A LARP needs players, and sometimes your friends don't have to be on the organizational side of your LARP to enjoy the LARP. You can still LARP with them and you can still have fun with them while recognizing that they are best helping your LARP in that moment by being a PC. And not everybody needs to have the exact same role at every LARP that you put on. If you do multiple LARPs throughout the year or you are doing a serialized LARP, you may have certain PCs who come to you with goals they have in mind or a plan to be an NPC of some kind or to implement some kind of story point that they're interested in. This is totally fine if you want to experiment, give someone a chance at kind of playing their hand at being a staff member or playing a larger role in the LARP. And you can determine based on that experience whether that's something that should continue. It's okay for someone to be an NPC at one event and then go back to being a PC at the next event. It doesn't necessarily mean they failed, but people are allowed to put on different hats depending on the event. And it's your position as a LARP administrator and a LARP organizer to determine how much weight you give that role when you're giving a PC an opportunity to kind of play a role as staff and to see how that plays out and how well that impacted your LARP. Now, LARPers and people in LARPing are really the lifeblood of a LARP. Whenever you're making an organization, you need people there to support you and take over any potential roles or jobs that you can't do yourself. If somebody could LARP completely on their own, run a LARP entirely on their own, we wouldn't be able to make these videos. People are involved, and so there are all these different elements of LARPing that involve dealing with people and inviting people in to help us and to kind of fill up the lacks that we have. One person is not going to be able to do every single job that is necessary at a LARP. And so you need to invite people in, whether these be friends or people that you know through the hobby or people you know with specific skill sets, to allow them to take certain burdens off you. If you try to do a LARP on your own, you're probably going to end up getting burnt out. You're probably going to lose energy. You might even lose motivation and lack the desire to keep going on. But when you have people beside you and behind you who are also invested in the projects you're working on, who also care about the story, care about LARPing, care about the people who are coming to these events, it'll help you feel motivated to continue working even when it's hard, even when it feels like there's too much work to be done. That's why people are so necessary. All right, guys, hopefully this was helpful to show you how important it is to establish a really effective staff as you're beginning your own LARP. We also hope that this could kind of show you how important it is to build a community and how LARPing is really about building a community. Speaking of community, we here at LARPshare are really committed to helping the LARP community grow. Whether you're someone who is trying to organize your own LARP, whether you just want to learn more about LARPing, we're here to answer questions and to help. And one of the most effective ways we can do this is by seeing you on our Discord. So if you become a patron, you get immediate access into our Larpshire Discord, where we answer questions, engage in conversations about LARPing and the LARP community, and are super willing to help people who are trying to organize their own events. So join that Discord, ask us questions, and we'll help you in any way that we can. Thank you guys for sticking around till the end. We love working on this series of videos. If you'd like to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on our socials, and we'll see you in the next video. Adventure awaits!